Welcome, everyone. This is Rashad Woods with the T.R.O.N podcast. I have a very special guest from the sunny side of Florida, very active member in his community, entrepreneur, Mr. Ed Pisani Jr. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be on your show. I'm really looking forward to this. And I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity to get people to be aware of what you do, what I do, and how we can make a difference in our community.
Well, I think, your active community involvement is very, very a great thing. And I saw, your background is varied, and it began in college, right when you graduated with the bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship from Wales University, right in New Jersey. So you want to talk about your background?
Absolutely, yeah. I graduated from school at Rhode Island. I went to Johnson Wales University, got an entrepreneurship degree. From there, I went to work for a charity. And I was like, it'd be cool if I one day became an executive director of a charity. And that was kind of my desire when I was younger. And after a certain period of time, I started helping people start up charities because
Right.
for the charity, I was helping them start programs inside of the charity. And
Yeah.
then someone was like, oh, yeah, Ed's the guy. If you need to start something up, talk to him. So I had this salsa group come to me, and very pretty girl, not going to lie. Like that was a very attracting opportunity to me because like
For
I talked to
sure.
a pretty girl,
Yeah.
very good in shape, nice
Yeah.
Latina. I was like, this is wonderful. So I helped them start the charity.
Right.
And from there, it became an exception from the inception to now. It's just like something I really enjoy doing. I think I've started about 10 charities every year since 2009.
Right. And I saw that you help people do that as well too. So, what are the common pratfalls when people want to start a charity and do good in their community, or even further than that? So when people want to start it, there's obviously tax implications, business implications. So what are the pratfalls that people fall into when they want to, do goodwill?
Like generally what I find most of all is the board creation. There's a big
Mhm.
problem there because the boards, they don't really define how they want their board to function. It's going to be a working board, operating board, governing board. Is there going to be standing committees, no standing committees? Is it a situation where that founder is going to be doing all the work and the board's going to be supporting him? Or is everyone jumping in there and doing it together? A lot of
Right.
times I find there is a mismatch in desires. And sometimes when you have a board member that joins your board that has a different idea in their mind of what needs to be
Mhm.
done, that causes a problem too. So the early days friction is something I try to coach people through when making board selections and truly trying to identify what they want their charity to be working as.
Right. And so it obviously has to be very defined in specific roles, and then they obviously have to set up the correct IRS and tax implication forms because
Correct.
those have very severe consequences if that's not set up correctly, even if you have good intentions while wanting to run a charity. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's still a business in a sense of you have to do things in the proper order. Am I correct?
100%. I've had numerous times where there's a good intention accountant that sets up a organization for someone that's like, I want to be a charity, and they set up a C corp. I've run into it twice, and it's been one of those big .com names that everyone knows online and
Right.
sees, and they didn't stop because they probably gave it to a paralegal, a legal assistant, and they set up the wrong entity. So right out of the gate, everything was wrong because that's a double taxation organization that's for a for-profit business
Correct.
versus a nonprofit, which is showing a zero bottom line balance. So
Right.
there was having to restart the whole thing over. I had one accountant that basically said, no, I did it right. And they were
Oh, wow.
going to town that like, no, you're wrong. I'm right. I'm like, I don't think I am because I've done
Right.
this umpteen times. And every time I do it,
Correct.
there's a certain system that has to be followed, a certain way you have to do things. If you don't do it in
Right.
proper order,
Right.
the IRS is going to ask you questions. And the last thing you want to have happen is have an IRS agent open up the book of anything because you're guilty until proven innocence in the eyes of the IRS.
No question. And I think that
Yeah.
if there's three letters in the U.S. language that terrifies any person with a pulsating heart and blood in their veins, it's those three letters, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants those
So
people.
going in there and saying, we're going to set this up right from day one, and then say, okay, we're going to do the basic blocking and
Mhm.
tackling. We're going to have a mission statement created. I help them create a mission statement.
Right.
Every charity I've set up has successfully received their 501 status.
Fantastic.
I don't, because it's just like C6s, C7s, C26s. Everyone knows like a C3 charity, which is the most popular one out there, but a C4 is actually a foundation. And then there's
Okay.
hybrid versions, and there's some that are meant for fraternal organizations, and then some meant for like support organizations. So I go through based upon our initial conversation, and I make suggestions of like, this is where I think you should land. And when we
Right.
put this together, this is the actual TNI number that's in the IRS database that I think best fits you.
Right.
I can't guarantee you're going to be a 501c3, but I can guarantee you will become a charitable organization if we follow this step-by-step plan. And I have sessions set up
Right.
where I break down like board development, organizational setup, fundraising, ongoing goal planning, what
Right.
results they want to achieve. So at the end of those sessions, their like brain is full and they're like, okay, I can't take anymore. Because when I start talking about this, since I've been doing it so long, it's like taking a drink from a fire hose.
Because people really don't understand, I'm guessing, how encompassing it truly is, right? And
Yeah. And then at a certain point in time, your brain is full and we have to
right.
take a break because you
Yeah,
need to
exactly.
digest everything I've shared with you.
Right.
Because just in this conversation, I'm going boom, 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 quick. And like I do the same thing in my sessions. And then
Yeah.
I'll stop and I give examples in my
Right.
sessions. And I'll talk about like, hey, if you're not careful, this could happen. If you're not careful,
Absolutely.
that could happen.
Right.
Unless in some cases they want that to happen. And that's a good thing
Mm.
because they want to have like a charity board of 30 people. They want to have an advisory board of 30 people and they want to step away after 2 years and say, I don't want to be the founder. I don't want to be on the board.
Got it. Got
I
it.
just want to be the person that bags the food in the food pantry. That's all I
Got it.
want to do.
Got it.
And there are some people that like that. I have other people that are like founders and are like, until the day I die, I will be the founder.
Right. Right. And
And yeah, two different worlds, two different
there's
mindsets.
different processes involved and things like that, right? Yeah, that's a lot to digest just in the small amount of time that you told me that, right? Because I'm like, when I think of charity, sometimes you think of Salvation Army and
Hmm.
some clothing drives and things like that, but obviously that's a lot more encompassing than even I was able to wrap my mind around. Just hearing it being treated more as a business, I think that you know that's a good thing that you're telling people that you have to go through the proper steps in order to stave yourself off from these particular issues. That's very helpful. I
Correct.
really appreciate you that. Does that segue into your I4 web services? Is that separate? Because I know that you also do that as an
It is.
entrepreneur to
It
help
is.
business. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So basically, yeah, I for web services, I do web design, SEO, blogging, social media, content creation, graphic design. I do graphic designs for like people's business cards, and I tell them just get them, print them anywhere you want. So my coaching that I do for these startups can go hand in hand with that. But if you have your niece's brother's sister's best friend that you've known since diapers going to do your website, I can't compete with that, nor do I want to.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it, so like but I offer that service out there as a plus one and I say,
Right.
hey, I can help you with the branding and the awareness campaigns if
Right.
you want to keep me on in that capacity separately from what I'm doing for my coaching. Because my coaching is like I want to get you to the touchdown finish line for this. That's the end goal.
Right.
And I want to give you the tools in your toolbox so you could do a good fundraiser. You
Right.
can have your SOP set up and your
Right.
bylaw set up and then it's sort of like, okay, now I'm going to step off
Right.
and because I've completed, unless you want to have me around quarterly to say, let's just keep up, Ed. I want to talk to you about something new that pops up. I'm more than willing to do that.
So, how does financial disclosures work with charities? Because I've never been involved with one. I mean, I've seen donations online where if there's like a GoFundMe, or obviously I've been at
Hmm.
services at a church, and the offering is. How does the financial disclosure work with a full running charity as a full time nonprofit or those other entities that you spoke of?
Yeah, you have to do reporting at the end of the year on 990 form. For those that are very, very small that have under a $50,000 budget, you could do a 990 easy postcard.
Okay.
And that basically is for like your Toastmasters club that might do $900 a year.
Right.
And they are charity unto themselves because that's how Toastmasters has set themselves up. They're a franchise system. So the franchisor is Toastmasters. Their franchisee is a local club. And then if the club goes bad, they just merge it with another franchisee, another
Got it.
Toastmasters club.
Got it.
But they charge like $25 a year. They're not. They're
Okay.
not. They're not like a big, massive entity
Okay.
at the local level. So an easy postcard is a way to go. When you get larger, you start having more boxes to check, and that's where I recommend bringing that accountant to sort of say,
Right.
"Hey, we got this going. Now bring the accountant in."
Absolutely.
Now, and there's certain accountants that are good for profit work, and there's very good accountants that do nonprofit work. So let's
Right.
say you get lucky and you have the Bill Gates Foundation say, I'm going to give you $5 million.
Got it.
Wonderful. They're going to automatically say, I want a qualified audit, which means you have to spend $5,000 from your charity funds to have
Okay.
a qualified audit. Show that to them. They can review it. And then they'll say, okay, now we're going to approve you for this money. You can't use the $5,000 out of the $5 million that you're hoping you'll get. You have to do
Right.
everything in proper order.
You have to have things of cash on hand to actually do the audit yourself, rather than say you're going to use incoming funds to do it.
And you need to have like QuickBooks,
Yeah.
like online, and that's a good way to track and handle that. And
Right.
like, there's certain tools out there that make life easier.
Of course.
And I'd sort of say these are the tools you can use. These are the ways you can go. Sometimes they have board members that join their team that already have those tools, and
Right.
other times they don't, and they're just like a grandma that says, you know what, I have kids in my community that need a coat, and I'm going to get coats, and I'm going to give coats away. And I
Right.
met one at my chamber recently that was literally that exact story. And this is great because she does something really, really good.
Correct.
Fundraising wise, there's room for opportunity there for coaching.
Yeah.
Setup wise,
Right.
she was very fortunate that her board member was an attorney. Not everyone
Perfect.
has an attorney that
Yeah.
could be like, hey, I'm going to do this. And some attorneys don't know what they're doing. I've had several occasions where attorneys came to me and said, hey, Ed, can you show me how to do this? And because they were like an accident attorney, nothing wrong with that. You
Correct.
need to have
Yeah.
those folks that take care of those type of things. This is its own wheelhouse. I'm not an attorney. I've just been
Right.
doing it since 2009, so close to 15 years now. So
And I think that that example of that grandmother, that individual, there's a lot more behind the scenes that may need to be done if she's going to do this and it turns into something larger, right? So people, I would
correct.
imagine, go into this something with very good intentions, but they have to make sure that if it does turn into something larger, does bring in large amounts of whether it's vendors or supplies or items of coats that have value associated with them. That's when you have to sit back, and your services in particular would say, hey, that's great, you need to check these boxes first before this gets something that you may need to report.
Yeah, and then I talk about goal setting, and I get into a little bit about future proofing your charity. So you start this charity up, you drop the initial investment for it, you're doing a great thing. That grandmother is older; she's not getting any younger.
Mm-hmm.
We're all not getting younger in life. We're all getting older. Well, how do you future proof this idea for the next generation?
Very good idea. Yeah, very good thought. Very good thought. Very good
So we
thought.
spend a whole session just on that. And we talk about
Right.
like, what are your long-term goals? I want you to think 5, 10 years out. I don't want you to think 5, 10 months out.
Right.
Because in
Yeah.
five,
Because
10 months, you might turn around and be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
exactly. Exactly. And so, are you specifically just Florida? Like, so I know you're in Florida. Did
No,
you just
I do nationwide. Like,
okay?
I am Florida based. So
Right.
obviously Florida is easiest for me because I'm right in everyone's backyard. I do this things, introduction meetings by Zoom. I do
Right.
sessions by Zoom or over the phone, whichever's easier. I have no problem. Anyone in the United States proper, I can help. If you're in Canada, you're in Mexico, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, because that's a whole different other slew of laws and
Correct.
tax. Yeah, I mean, we're talking that's not your level of expertise. It's best hey, we can talk and we can say that's a great thing, but you're better off going with your particular sets of finance and reporting laws over there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I've set up charities in Rhode Island, Florida, obviously, Georgia, Texas. So I've done them out of state. And it's nice. It's fun because you get a chance to really engage and know. I did one in North Carolina. So all across the United States, no problem. I'll take you through the steps because a lot of the states function similarly, not identical.
Right.
So
Right.
there is some research that I'll do between sessions for your given state to say, hey, you need to be aware of this. This is important.
Right. There's different reporting laws per state. So this is kind of down that wormhole where you talked about you couldn't help another country. And what if somebody has a charity that does like international help, right? They're based in Florida, but they do something to, Central America or South America or something like that.
I have had occasions where that's been the case where like there was a charity that was set up that was an international charity
Right.
based in Florida. We set it up in Florida. It was 501c3 organized in the state of Florida, but they were delivering the word of God to
Okay.
places where that was not allowed, illegal.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they were like 3 levels deeper where they're saying, this is what we're doing, and we're doing it in just this way. And they had a storefront LC that was doing a different piece of the puzzle for them. So how the whole structure of everything was set up, if you didn't know, you would have thought that that was not the real intention of
No
it.
kidding.
And
No kidding.
yeah, it's a good covert action they were taking because they were bringing in their minds Jesus Christ, their Lord and Savior. I'm a follower of Jesus myself.
I saw you were
Um,
active in your church. I saw you.
yeah,
That's a beautiful picture with your family when your baby was in the
yeah,
picture on your website. That's awesome.
yeah. So like obviously that was a big deal to be able
Right.
to deliver that message to
Hmm.
those that can't get a hold of a Bible or
Right.
not allowed to get X, Y, and Z. And then in getting them connected to organizations that can do online seminary school so they
Right.
can start up churches and ministries over in a place where it's not really allowed and do it underground.
That sounds like some
So it's really
complicated.
cool.
I hate to even say it, kind of dangerous. I don't mean to, that's a heavy lift, right? That's a heavy lift. When you're just hearing that,
Well,
you're
I'm a coach, so I'm like 4 or 5 arm lengths away,
I'm just like,
thankfully.
wow, but just hearing that,
Yeah,
I'm just like, wow, something like that is so commendable because you're just like, you have to really put yourself out there and be willing to, do something like that. So
yeah,
glad they
yeah,
have you as a resource to be able to help. That's really good.
yeah.
One thing I thought was really interesting was, you're part of your local chamber of commerce and you're very active in your community. And you also
Mhm.
have your own podcast too, which is
Correct.
interesting by design. I thought that was fantastic, which is a great name,
Yeah,
by the way. And you want
thank
to tell
you.
a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. Yeah, I do long form podcasts. I generally talk with someone for over an hour,
Right.
sometimes pushing 2 hours, and we just deep dive. And that's what it is. Like for me, it's an opportunity because when I'm doing the website design, I'm in front of a lot of computer screens, and it gives me a
Oh, for
chance to
sure.
get to know someone and
Right.
really dig deep. And it was just people like, oh, this is like the Joe Rogan show. I had no intention it to be like that, but it was just
Right.
like I like talking to people, and
Right.
I need to get work done so I can multitask. We can talk. And then if I want to just take a mind break because I'm working on a project that I need just to switch gears and think about something different, I can jump in
Right.
that,
Right.
look at that and say, okay, now I've refreshed. I come back, it's like, oh, here's the answer. This is how this is coded wrong. I can take care of that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I think that was exactly the segue why you did your podcast in addition to the work you have. Because I can imagine that, hey man, maybe I need, a refresher or a better insight to helping
Mhm.
with what you do. And the podcast allows you to reach people to say, that's a great perspective.
Yeah.
That you could tweak certain things that you were doing to be more effective at what you were doing, with your charities. And I think your podcast, I listened to a couple snippets of it, and I was very impressed by some of the questions. The tax guy you had on there in particular, that was Australian. I was like, that's the first I've ever heard an Australian guy talking about the IRS.
Yeah, it's not something you hear every day, and like I get a kick out of it because it's someone new with a different
Right,
perspective that comes on the show.
right,
Um, and that allows me the opportunity to just enjoy you know life because
right.
I do what I do every day, and it's a lot of fun.
I
So
have I have to imagine. I hate to cut you off. That when the COVID situation happened, that your online services became more prevalent to use, and because people, ultimately what happened, your services that you had already had in place became, how do you do this online and meeting people and being able to assist people online had to be great for company growth and opportunities.
yeah, there was growth there. I don't want to rain on a bad moment in our history. Like I
Absolutely
look
not.
at COVID as being like in 25 years from now, there's going to be so many case studies from so many results from what happened at that time and how
Right.
people reacted and like things that kind of grew and then shrunk. Like Zoom is a great example. It exploded and then
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
it shrunk back down again. And
Right.
you have other ones where there's other things in play. Like so, yeah. Is my web business do well at that time point in time? Yeah. Was I also stressed out like the rest of the world?
Of course.
Absolutely. I just kind of pivoted and I said, okay, this pivot is good. So yeah, I mean, there's been good moments and there's been other moments. I ran a charity for upwards of 10 years
Right.
myself personally called Bounce, and during COVID, that kind of was a nail in the coffin because we would only do in person
Oh man.
meetings with GED high school students,
Got it.
helping them learn certain aspects of
Right.
useful life, from saving money to starting a business to like career interviewing skills.
All the
When
stuff they
that
don't
went
teach you in
away,
college.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like once that went away, the board was like, "Hey, we're not going to get sued for ICU if
Right.
someone gets COVID." And I was like, "I 1,000% agree." So we shuttered that. But I have firsthand experience of running a charity as a managing director for about a
Right.
decade. So when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want someone to coach me," yeah, I could
Right.
coach you, and I have that background wealth of expertise. I worked for a large charity. I also ran my own small charity. I've set up 150
Mm-hmm.
plus now. I really don't really consider how many I've set up charities that all have gotten to the 501 status. So I could do that again. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes people feel good that there's someone that's a reliable resource there for them.
Well, I think the internet is a very, powerful, but also, can be a dangerous wormhole because unfortunately it brings out a lot of bad actors and in every
Yeah.
sector of economy and life. Knowing that there's a trusted resource of a gentleman yourself, who's active in the church, active in Chamber of Commerce and has credibility in their local community only stresses how much, you're a good valued resource to be able to go to somebody that ultimately will give them, the results and the proper structure that they need. And, just briefly, I just want to
Yeah,
talk about,
I work
your
on,
working.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to talk about your community work.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say like a little bit of what I run off of, and I think why people respond well to me is I believe in fearless honesty. So I will give you the answer that not everybody wants to hear, but it needs to be said. And like
Absolutely.
that, yeah, that's really, really important. But on to your next question. Could you say that again for me?
I was just going to say, I saw you were very active in your community, like the Freemasonry, the Chamber of
Hmm.
Commerce. You're an active member in your church. I saw that you teach Sunday school courses. So you're kind
Yeah.
of, you have a full circle kind of view about life and everything when it comes to giving of self.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had a successful business, thankfully, and I've given back to my communities that I've had a pleasure of being a leader in an organization for, from my Masonic Lodge, where I served as worshipful master, to being a Toastmaster president,
Right.
to being on the board of Rotary, to like this year serving as president of my Chamber of Commerce. Last year, I was district commissioner for the scouting district that I'm in. This year, I'm becoming the district chair.
Right.
So, like, I give back 100%. In like it's a testament to like abundance. I've gotten some abundance in my life, and I like to give that abundance back out and be there. And there's no better way to say thank you than with time, because with time is a way to show love.
For sure.
And like if you love your communities, you're going to put time and effort into your communities as best you can.
That's fantastic, Ed. And so, for people who are listening, how can they find? Like, obviously, they don't need me to find you, but just for this program speaking, how can people find you, your services that you offer to lead them down the right path to success in business consulting or in life
Yeah.
coaching?
Yeah, like for as fastest way is you just look at my name, edpisanijr.com. And when you find that, you will be able to see my services. You can schedule an interview call with me, 30-minute Zoom call. There's also a book I wrote on how to write a business plan. So if you want to take the time, 160 pages that you can read, you can digitally get it on Amazon, or you can get it right online. You can buy a hard copy book. And you can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm around. I'm available. I'm
Yeah.
on my Instagram. So if you just look up Ed Pisani Jr., I pop right up. You'll see this fantastic beard, which is getting grayer by the year, but I like to call it chrome because,
That's awesome.
us
That's
guys, we
awesome.
don't gray, we get chrome.
And luckily, I've seen one or two pop up, and it's an out of body experience. The first one you get, because you're trying to fool
Yeah,
yourself that it's not really like there. You know what I mean? You're like, nah, that's not. I've seen one like in my mustache. I'm like, nah, that's not really there. I'm looking.
yeah.
It's the angle's wrong, and then you start looking closer. You're like, oh,
Yeah, I thought it was whitening toothpaste, and then it started spreading, and I was like,
yeah,
it's not the whitening toothpaste.
yeah.
That's not it.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I would love to continue this conversation,
Yeah.
with a follow up with you. It has been an honor and a pleasure. And did you have any questions in particular for me?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come out and speak on your podcast. It means a lot to me. And I just want to leave one last parting message to the folks that are maybe listening. You've been blessed with a good idea
Thank
in your mind, and it's up to you to take action to make that into a charitable organization if you so desire. I'm
you.
here to be
Absolutely.
there for you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I think that when people start understanding that life is very precious and short, they'll take more of opportunities. And there are people like yourself out there that if you are committed and you're passionate, that there's a person that's there to assist for it. You're not alone when it comes to that endeavor. So
correct. Yeah.
thank you very much, Ed Pisani Jr. I really appreciate your time. So
Appreciate you. Have a great day.
you too.